My name's Adam. I live in Tunbridge Wells, and I run the Instagram site at Dad's Table. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's an Instagram page and blog that I started about 3 years ago when my wife was pregnant with our first child. And my background is I'm a Leeds trained chef, trained chef, passionate cook. But when I started cooking for her when she was pregnant, I found out that there was this complete kind of negative vibe about what you should be eating during a pregnancy, and there was nothing really aimed at, how can you make yourself feel good whilst you're eating? How can you use food as a positive factor? What should you be eating during different trimesters? All that sort of stuff. So I started just tailoring my own recipes for her pregnancy, started posting it online, and it started going quite well. And since then, I've carried that on through the weaning of our first child, into kind of toddler and family food. And we've now got another little boy who is 12 weeks old. So weaning is kind of coming up on the horizon for us as well, although it's a couple of months away. I can't quite believe that it's coming up quite soon. But the reason that I thought I'd jump on tonight is just really to talk about weaning whilst working, because when we started weaning for the first time, a lot of the stuff that I was reading and seeing out there kind of gave the impression that, you're home from work all day long, you've got nothing else to do but, boil broccoli for 4.5 hours, and condense it and everything. And actually in the real world, we're all busy, we're all commuting, and yeah, so weaning is kind of needs not quicker, because that kind of trivializes it, but we need to find a way of incorporating it into our everyday lives. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to kind of break it down into a couple of different areas. The first is I'm not really going to talk about those first 2-3 weeks or so when you are just kind of giving in different tastes and textures. I'm going to talk more about kind of from 8 months onwards, when your kids are beginning to kind of eat more normal food. I'll give some tips on breakfasts, on lunches, on dinners, on finger foods, and then I'll talk more about kind of family foods and stuff to do when they're kind of about 1 year plus. And in theory, they should kind of be eating the same sorts of things as you. So the whole background to this is I want to make it, easy, quick. No one wants to be making 25 different dishes each day. I will say, as a complete caveat to all of this, I'm a trained chef. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a doctor. Anything when it comes to food allergies and intolerances and everything, please obviously consult your doctor. I'm at the end of the day, I'm just a foodie that wants my family to eat well and eat healthy, and that's kind of the angle that I'm coming from. So just as a start, my kind of mentality, which is quite similar to a lot of other people out there, is that when you do start weaning, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, whenever you decide to wean, I've always gone for the whole vegetable first approach. You spend a couple of weeks boiling and steaming different vegetables, you whiz it up, you put it in ice cube trays, and then you just, prod it at baby for a couple of weeks and see if they take it or not. So I'm not going to really talk about that, because, that I think that's quite an individual choice that people make. And also, normally when you start weaning at that time, at least one of you is normally home with the baby. The problem comes kind of at that 7, 8, 9 months, when you're starting to go back to work, if you haven't already, but you still got to cook for your child when you might not have done it before. All I would say is, in terms of kit, keep it simple. I've never really gone in for, big baby processors and all that sort of stuff. I have a tiny little hand blender that I use for everything, not just baby food, which I absolutely love. It cost me about £20 from a high street. I have lots of ice cube trays, and here's a good tip. I have, those whiskey ice cube holders that make ice cubes about that big. They are brilliant for toddler-sized meal portions. They're brilliant for making your own pesto. They're brilliant for kind of bigger sized food. So get yourself a couple of those off Amazon, because they're really good as well. So let's talk more about early days, kind of 6 to 8 months, where you're starting to give different textures and different foods I'm very much of the belief that all of this should be fun. It shouldn't be stressful. If you're stressed, and I have been and still am stressed when it comes to feeding my kids, if you're stressed, then they're just going to pick up on it. They don't see the importance of it, so they'll just be playing a game back with you as well. So do try always to take the emotion out of it in everything that you do, and know that you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. Especially during this pandemic. I don't know how old your children are, but it's going to be affecting them in different ways. So you might find that their appetite has gone. That's certainly the case with mine. Mine is 2.5, and I will say that by no stretch of the imagination is he a good eater. He has good days, he has bad days, like everyone else. So okay, let's talk about early days. Since my son was 6 months old, pretty much every morning I've made him porridge. And I absolutely swear by it, because it means that I can, in theory, pack him off to nursery or whatever he's doing during the day, and he's had a really, really good breakfast. I grew up hating porridge, as most people did. I thought it was really, really boring. So we make it a bit more interesting. So I use, cheap supermarket whole grain porridge, and I make it with full fat milk, and then I put in some coconut and almond milk sometimes to make it taste a bit different. I mash it up with a banana. I add some chopped nuts. I add some almond butter. I add some cinnamon. So he's kind of got different textures already and different tastes. And at least for the first year of his life, he absolutely inhaled it every morning. He's getting a bit different now in that he doesn't really want the same thing every day. So he might have it 2-3 times a day, 2-3 times a week. But the days that he does, he gets off that kitchen table full of energy and full of beans. So I would really start off going down that route. If you want to think of different ideas as well, you could make an apple puree, you could blitz up some blueberries or some raspberries, or some blackberries. I love the banana thing because it's such a good fruit for toddlers to have each day. But yeah, so it starts off breakfast that way. Other things I do during breakfast as well that are nice and quick. French toast. We do a French toast every Sunday. Get some brioche. Doesn't have to be brioche, but just get some brioche, cut up into slices, mix up some egg, dip it in the egg, and then fry it on both sides, and then have it with fruit, have it with banana. Banana pancakes are brilliant. I do a load of banana pancakes as well. It's basically just a mixture of egg, whole grain flour, and mashed up banana. Make loads, store them in the freezer. You can defrost them and just have them as snacks. I will say any recipes or anything that I'm talking about now, do drop me a direct message after this, or have a look at my website, which is atdadstable.com. Some of the recipes are up there. A lot of them aren't, because I need to overhaul my website. But do just let me know. So French toast, banana pancakes, porridge, muffins. I make a load of muffins. Again, banana and blueberry muffins. Make a batch of 12. Put 10 of them in the fridge, in the freezer, and have 2 of them. Again, it's a really solid, heavy, whole grain fruit way to start the day, and doesn't contain any sugar. And then finally, if you're having a fry up, or if you're doing some eggs as well. The way that I got my son into eating eggs, weirdly enough, had it all the time between about 6 and 9 months, and then didn't touch it for a year, and now goes back to having eggs. So every child's different. But just I scrambled some eggs, got 1 tomato and diced it up really small, mixed that in with some oregano and some grated cheese, and just mixed that all together. So it's all kind of gloopy and perfect texture for young kids. But he really, really liked that. That went down quite well. And then egg cups, which you've probably seen the rounds doing online sometimes. Get a muffin tray, put into each muffin tray, some chopped up sausage, some chopped up vegetables, some whisked egg, some bacon, whatever you want. Put it in the oven for 10 minutes. It comes out as like an egg muffin, basically. And they're freezable as well. So that's something that's really, really good to eat. So that's what I'm doing when it comes to breakfasts. Other things to talk about during those early few months. I really am a big fan of finger foods, and finger foods that you can take out with you. When we were weaning him, it was over the summer. And, you know, we were going on loads of day trips to the beach or National Trust properties or whatever. Hopefully those days will come back again. But I was making a load of finger food for him to, again, just give him exposure to different textures and different tastes. And that's stuff that, again, the whole theme to all of this is these are some ideas for stuff you can make in bulk. Just accept that, you know, it's going to be 1 or 2 evenings a month where it's kind of head down, make 3 or 4 different things, but then just chuck it in the freezer and you've got this whole pick and mix selection to take away with you. So the stuff I was doing for finger foods, kind of between 6 months and 12 months, vegetable muffins, absolutely swear by them. I actually cannot wait to start making them again for my second son. All you do is you get, again, for quantity, send me a message, but you get a load of whole grain flour, and then basically mix it up with a load of yogurt, a load of grated cheese, and then, excuse me, any vegetable you want. So I'd chuck a load of courgette, grated carrot, peas, sweet corn, mushroom, a load of herbs, mash it all up, put it in some muffin trays and cook it for 20 minutes. In the oven, comes out, and then I do that in batches of 24, and each one, you know, it's quite filling. It's probably for an 8-month-old, it's probably all they would need to eat for one meal, and just chuck it in the freezer. And each time we'd get in the car and we'd go somewhere, I'd take one out in the morning, put it in a bag. By the time it was lunchtime, it would have defrosted. So those I made regularly from 6 months until he was about 18 months, and he was having more normal food. So really, really swear by those. And again, something similar to that is kind of cheesy vegetable scones. I do those as well. Again, you're using whole grain flour, and put a load of parmesan and broccoli and basil and make them into tiny little balls and put them in the oven. They were the 2 things that I'd always swear by, and I just have bags and bags and bags of those in my freezer, take them out in the morning, and they're good to eat in the afternoon. And what I love about it is you start off making it and you see all of these vegetables that you want to put into it, and you know that, you know, 4 courgettes, 4 carrots, a bag of peas, a bag of sweet corn, that's all in those 24 muffins. So when he's eating a whole muffin, you know, brilliant, he's just had a third of a carrot, a third of a courgette, or whatever. So those are good things. Other finger foods, not necessarily to take with you, but just to get them exposed to different textures and different tastes. Lots of different balls, fish balls, meat balls, chicken balls. I'm not really a fan of what some other people do, where they put fruit in to sweeten it. You know, I personally think that's just tricking them and everything. I'd rather just go for the tastes and slowly get them to like it. So I would mash up a load of mashed potato and put in some cod, put in some salmon. I stumbled across just making one where I cooked up a load of bacon, diced that up with a load of spinach and some mashed potato and some cheese, and made that into lovely bacon balls, which my son loved. I tried to make it again for him a couple of weeks ago, and he hated it, which was really annoying, but he did love it. And then meatballs. I mean, everyone loves a meatball. And again, this is depending on how old your kids are. These are actually fun finger foods that you can start making with them as well. You know, you can get them rolling out shapes. You can get them, you know, emptying bags of peas into a bowl. It's all kind of quite fun stuff that you could do. Fried stuff as well. So sweet corn and pea fritters, rosties. If you go on my Instagram page, I made some awesome rosties a couple of weeks ago, which is basically just grated normal potato, cheese, and then 1 egg, and a spoonful of flour. Mix it together, chuck it in the pan, and you've got these really, really tasty, cheesy rosties. Quesadillas, we eat a lot of those. You know, just mash up an avocado, spread it across a tortilla, put some cheese on it, put some chicken on it as well if you want. Just pop it in the pan for a couple of minutes each side. A note about chicken as well. I do find that that kind of hard protein is quite hard for them to take sometimes in the early years. So what I would do is I would just blend it up, or, you know, just tear it apart, whatever. So whatever, just kind of get it into this crummy, lumpy sort of consistency. Doesn't sound very appetizing, but you can easily put that in a quesadilla, or you can put that in some chicken balls, and it will go straight down. So that's kind of that's the food that I was doing up until my kid was about 1. Again, it was very batch cooked. I wasn't a huge fan of thinking, what should I cook for him tonight? When at the end of the day, both me and my wife were working. We were commuting long hours. Well, for some of the time we were commuting as well. I didn't really want the stress of thinking, what am I going to eat and what am I going to make for him? I preferred to go down the route of just having 5 or 6 different things that were available in the freezer, taking them out and knowing that's what he had to eat. And I'd be combining that with him seeing the main meals that me and my wife were eating, and he was gently trying some of that as well. So that's the first half. Second half, so then moving on when they get to kind of a year, 14, 15 months or so, and they start to eat more of what you're eating, and you just want to start making one dish for the whole family. Just a couple of tips I wanted to share. I'm a huge fan of making my own pesto. I do that all the time. Those of you that follow me on Instagram know that I talk about it non-stop. Pesto, homemade pesto, is such a good way of getting greens into your kids. And it's also such a good way of using up all of the old bags of greens that we have in our fridge that we never seem to use. So I don't do the traditional Italian pesto at all, because I personally think it's not as healthy as other options. So I do big bags of spinach, of kale, broccoli, rocket. Had that with lots of different nuts, walnuts, hazelnuts, almonds, Brazil nuts, cheddar cheese, parmesan sometimes. Blitz it all together, and you get these really vibrant greens that are brilliant just to stir into some pasta, or put in a soup, or put on a marinade. Again, if you take a step back and just think, what are the vegetables or the minerals or whatever, what do I want to get into my son over the course of the day? Pesto is a great way of getting a load of stuff in, and again, just exposing them to those different tastes and different flavors. If you are making your own pesto, or if you're doing any kind of pasta dish that has a sauce, try and use fusilli pasta. I know it's quite hard to get certain types of pasta at the moment, but fusilli is the one with the spirals. And basically what that means is the sauce clings to it a lot better. So when they're just picking up pasta and ignoring the sauce that you've made, the pasta already has kind of the sauce clinging to it. So that's a good thing to do. Make my own baked beans as well. There's nothing wrong with Heinz baked beans. I have a store cupboard full of them, but I also sometimes make my own beans, use cannellini beans, and mix those in with a tomato sauce you can make. So maybe roast a load of tomatoes, a load of red peppers, a load of garlic, a load of onion in the oven for half an hour, then blitz it up, and you'll have a really nice, rich, hearty tomato sauce. Put that with some beans, grate some cheese on it. You've got homemade beans on toast. Whole grain, go whole grain whenever you can. And again, especially during this pandemic time, I'm trying to think about, what do I want my son to eat each day? Not each meal time, each day. Each day I want him to have a certain amount of fruit, a certain amount of vegetable. I want him to have some yogurt. Out of 3 meals, if I'm honest, I want him to have 2 good meals. If that means the third one goes wrong, then it doesn't really matter, because I know he's already had some good stuff in him. And that approach kind of dials down the pressure, where every meal you're thinking, you've got to eat this, you've got to eat this. And I've been there the first few months of weaning. I was thinking, you've got to eat this, because, you're not the biggest kid in the world. You've got to be strong and everything. But that pressure just translates into your kids, and it's not a good thing to do. So we're doing a lot of fun cooking together as well. We're making lots of nice foods together. We're making cheese straws from puff pastries. We're making pizza. Get some pizza dough from supermarkets, and make your own pizza. We're making lots of muffins together. We're making some of those balls together. And it's really fun, because I've got a little step ladder, so he can stand up next to me. And to be honest, since he could walk, he's been standing up next to me at the counter, playing with onions, playing with garlic. And I think that's so important for a kid. So we're spending a lot of time doing that with food. We're also varying where we eat a lot. So we're not just sitting at the kitchen table all day, every day, sitting inside, sitting outside. We're having picnics. We're having, Saturday night pizza on the couch. There's time where he's sitting on his own. There's times where we might, walk and have some snacks. So we're trying to vary that up as much as possible. And then, and just wrapping up as well, my fridge and freezer contains as many packaged, processed, made foods as the next person. I'm not holier than thou and says that everything should be made yourself. We do not have the time, especially when you're working. A few things that my kid loves that we buy from supermarkets. Loves a Baby Bell, loves some boiled eggs. I've just got him into Laugh and Cow recently. Loves that kind of stuff. Whenever he's having a sandwich, I get those sandwich thins, so that the bread isn't that big that it completely overpowers them and puts them off. And then when it comes to meals that I'm making as a whole, that he's trying, obviously loads of pasta dishes because he loves pasta. So we're doing lots of, spag bowl, meatballs, lasagna. Lasagna is a great one, and there's loads of lasagna sheets in the supermarkets at the moment. Tuna pasta, mac and cheese. I made a brilliant mac and cheese yesterday, which I absolutely loved, and I'm literally looking at it now because he didn't touch any of it, and it was really disappointing. But that goes to show that everyone has their good and bad days, because normally he'll hoover it up. Tortillas, quesadillas, risottos. Risottos are really good ones as well because it's all sticky and they can play with it. If you want to get them into fish, chowders are a really good way. Make kind of a thick, creamy potato soup and add some flaked cod or some flaked salmon to it. But as well as that, I'm also using, chicken nuggets and fish fingers and stuff like that as much as the next person is. And then I just want to finish just by talking about sweet stuff as well. If you have ever not made your own banana ice cream before, I encourage you, if you take anything from this webinar, it's my favorite thing. Making your own banana ice cream is brilliant because there's only one ingredient, bananas. You basically chop up some ripe bananas, put them in the freezer for a couple of hours, and then just blend it up until it goes really, really creamy. Put it back in some Tupperware and freeze it again, and it's ice cream, and it looks exactly like ice cream, and they think it's ice cream because it's brilliant, because you'll give it to your kids and they'll proudly walk around saying, "Daddy's giving me ice cream," and it's not, but they don't know. And it's just pure bananas. So that's it. I think if the underlying message is, I think weaning is something that's very personal to every person. I think weaning is something that there's a lot of, not pride and shame is too harsh, but people get very concerned and upset about it. And it's something that, you know what's best for your kid. It's something that I don't think you should overthink, especially when we have busy lives. Identify the few things you think your kid will like, identify the few things that you can make en masse and just chuck in your freezer, and you won't go far wrong. So that's kind of it. Any questions, any comments?
Yeah, guys, if you just want to type it in the box, put your real live hands up, by all means, ask any questions. We have got 3 comments in the chat. Okay, Adam, could you just repeat the URL of your website, please? People are just struggling to find that.
At dadstable.com.
Fantastic. Right, here we go. This is a question. Have you got a go-to super quick recipe that covers all food groups?
I would go back to pesto pasta. It is literally my favorite dish to cook for my son, because pesto covers all the green. Pesto pasta, and cook up some chicken breast and then shred it and put it over the top. So if you eat meat, that's what I would do. And you can put some cheese on that as well. So cheesy pesto pasta, or replace the pasta for risotto. You could do like a cheesy, you could do actually blending up some peas and stirring them through a risotto is another really good way of getting some greens in. And then shred some chicken on top of that. So yeah, cheesy pea chicken risotto.
Cool, sounds good. Next question from James. When did you introduce strong spices into the children's food?
Day one. Again, my mentality was not, I don't even know if I consciously thought about that. Strong spices, like I made something today that had too much garlic in, and he started crying. So we still have that angle, but if you include oregano as a spice, I was doing that from day one. If they don't like it, they're going to spit it out. I never put much kind of chili spice in food that I was making for my son. And then the other day, I got sent some chili mayonnaise to try, and he sat down and just started. I shouldn't be saying this, and just started dipping vegetables in it and eating it, and ate like a whole tub of chili mayonnaise. And I thought it was hot. So yeah, from day one.
Okay, that's cool. Olivia asks, do your kids have an ultimate favourite food?
Nice question. I think favourite food.
Apart from banana ice cream.
Apart from banana ice cream, we made some homemade pizza the other day that was brilliant. Again, it doesn't have to be unhealthy. Get some whole grain pizza dough, and then it's things that isn't necessarily the healthiest things, but like cheese sticks. We got some puff pastry and just chopped it up and put a load of cheese on it and baked it in the oven. I'd say that's their favourite. Watermelon, loves watermelon. Again, it's not necessarily foods that you're making, but he probably ate about half a watermelon tonight because he just loves it. It's what one kid loves, another one will hate.
Yeah, absolutely. I really want to have some of those cheesy muffins you were talking about. so keen on that idea. If people want to ask you questions afterwards, and there's always, I wish I'd have asked this, where can they get hold of you?
Easiest way is on Instagram. So I'm on Instagram at Dad's Table. My website, as I said, is in a massive need of an overhaul, which I never find time to do. So contact me on Instagram. I'm really responsive over that. And yeah, feel free to ask me anything.
That's fantastic. Adam, thanks so much.
Cool.
Thank everyone for joining us. It's been brilliant to have you all here. And if you want to hook up with us tomorrow, we've got more workshops which you can join in with. We've got recipes online. You can have a look at some of Adam's recipes on his website. So and join in the conversation. So we'll see you all guys later. Bye. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Care. Thanks, Adam. Bye.